It's time for a Humans in Tune conversation with Darren on 93.9 Mike FM.
Hey, friends and neighbors and 93.9 Mike FM listeners and viewers. I don't know why I have that pinned comment in there, but I screwed up. I'm going to get rid of that. I will tell you this. I am excited about today's guest. We're going to have some fun talking about an upcoming concert, about a whirlwind tour experience, and all kinds of things that have come up. But my guest today for this Humans in Tune episode is Felipe Brito. Felipe, welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you for having me there. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Yes, man. It is good to have you. We are excited. I'm going to show you this right now, kids, because you're going to buy this next Saturday when you come to his concert. But Felipe just recorded this album with some amazing musicians, including yourself. Before we get into the weeds, for those of you who maybe have not come to one of the jazz shows yet at Scout Hall or weren't at my birthday shenanigans and things like that, and haven't had the opportunity to see Felipe play, he is a jazz trombonist supreme, a man who brings a lot of South American influence into the jazz here in Southeast Missouri just as a whole, but you're also teaching the next generation of jazz pros up there at SEMO. So let's talk a little bit about, you've been at SEMO now how long?
This is going to be my second year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been brought in, you've taken the reins on things over there, you're instructing these guys. Of course, you've got concerts going on at SEMO, where we're featuring these students and, everything from recitals all the way through to jazz concerts. That's exciting stuff. This concert that you're doing next Saturday, April 24th, Scout Hall. Get your tickets now at thescouthall.org. But this concert is going to be, basically, we're going to be featuring your new CD. We're going to be featuring the styles on this. And that's kind of what I want to get into the weeds a little bit today, okay?
Yeah.
A lot of times when we think of, hey, it's going to be a jazz show, we're expecting, Grover Washington Jr. or something like that. You have an expectation of what you think jazz might be. And the beauty of jazz is the color of jazz. There's so many different influences and so many different styles. And your Latin American, Brazilian influence on the jazz style is what is taking prominence in your record and in your show. So let's talk a little bit about how this came to fruition. Where did you decide, man, I need to cut an album. I got to spread the word. I need to do it in a recorded fashion as well. So how did that come about?
Well, I was a band director in Austin at the time. That was in 2023, at the beginning of the year. And I was going to go to Brazil during the summer. And I just decided to record an album. I have collaborated with a lot of musicians before that, recording their albums, especially when I was in Brazil many years ago, like 13, 14 years ago. But I always had this goal of recording my own album. And I didn't know if it was going to be classical music, if it was going to be jazz, Brazilian. And I decided to go on the route of doing jazz and Brazilian music combined, because just of my, life and everything that I do, playing jazz, commercial music, a lot of, when I was in Austin, I was playing a lot of salsa, a lot of brass band, a lot of, commercial. So I think that it was a good idea, and I wanted to explore more about me as a composer. I never really... as a band director, you're always like arranging things and, doing things here and there, but not necessarily composing. But since we play on stage, soloing all the time, that's composition, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, improvisation is composition on the fly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that's what I did. I just decided to come up with some ideas. And, and for everyone that is listening there, it's nothing like, this beautiful moment of, looking at the moon and then I'm composing. No, it's literally like me in my teaching break, like from, teaching 5th grade and 6th grade band and then having to do high school rehearsal outside. And I'm like, okay, I have 30 minutes. Let me just come up with something here. Wow. And then after school is done, I was like, okay, I got an extra hour here. So what type of beat I want on this tune? How is it going to be? What is the tempo? And kind of exploring, sitting on the piano. I mean, I'm a crappy piano player, but, like sitting and trying to come up with some chords and making it interesting. And that's how I composed, Yeah. And I'm thankful that I had a lot of people to help me, the musicians, 2 of my friends in Austin, Frank and Victor, that helped me to put the score together and organize everything to make it easier when we went to the studio in Brazil. So, and now with Nick Finzer helping, having his label under, getting a lot of reviews in magazines and doing tours and stuff, shows.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because you literally, like, you pulled up from St. Louis, just got back in town, and rolled up here at the station to jump in, fix your hair real quick, for the high-quality video. And jump on board with me. So you've been very busy this summer. Let's talk a little bit about those shows on the road and how things went in Sao Paulo and so forth.
Oh, yeah. So I am thankful. Well, first of all, I'm thankful to be in Cape Girardeau. When I was in Austin, I didn't know what I was going to expect coming here to SEMO. I was very
Austin
excited.
and Cape are so similar.
Well, and this is the thing, and this is the thing that I want to get across. I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues, Gabby Buffoni, at the faculty retreat that we have on River Campus. And, I'm always like defending Cape at all costs about how awesome Cape is and, SEMO and everything. And we are all. And then I said, I think that Cape has pretty much everything that any other big city has. And she gave me a good perspective. She's like, yes and no, because we do have a lot, but it's just the size is a little different, like we don't have it necessarily everything in the same proportions.
Right, it's all perspective.
Right, but like we do have everything that you can imagine, like we have parks, we have live music, we have diversity on campus that is growing every time, and it's really good. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do this summer. So I got this grant through SEMO to recruit and do a series of shows. So I went to São Paulo and Rio. I visited over 15, I think that's almost 20. I'm putting together everything that I did because I would go to one school and then someone was like, hey, how about you go to this other school today? So I ended up going to a lot of places, and every time I went there, I was talking to high school students about SEMO and how it is for you to apply to SEMO and, how it is for you to do your English test or,
the gates you'd need to get through.
Right. And like any other high school student, like get your transcription of your, high school grades and everything. So, and then in the middle of all that, I also played a couple shows, mostly songs from my album. Right. Promoting my album, and it was beautiful, playing with a lot of different musicians there. So now it's time to do that here in the U.S. and starting in Cape Girardeau. This is going to be the first concert that we play all the 6 tunes from the album, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
It is going to be awesome. And again, if you're just catching us, the concert is next Saturday. It's a week from tomorrow, the 24th. At Scout Hall here in Cape. Tickets are on sale at thescouthall.com. We'll put a link up on the Facebook chat afterwards as well. And when you mentioned that, the perspective and sizing between towns like Austin and Cape, you're right. We do have those things. We may not have, Antones or Stubbs, but we've got Scout Hall. So we've got great venues, smaller capacity, still a great environment.
Spectrum Record Lounge,
we have, Spectrum. And you guys, as a jazz community, have found a good home down there.
Yeah.
You do some gigs throughout the year in the summer for schools. Students are getting some exposure.
Yeah, and it's the thing, too, that people don't understand. Like, when you go to a big city, things are not really the way you think they are supposed to. Especially nowadays with social media. Everyone thinks that everything is very flashy. Everything is very this and that. Like Tunes of Twilight, through Old Town Cape. That's a beautiful event that we have. And we are promoting and supporting people from the community to play there. I mean, we have a lot of things that are constantly building community.
Yes.
And that's something that a lot of big cities are lacking.
You're absolutely
I felt that a lot, like the love and the support that I feel in Cape Girardeau. It's outstanding, like immense.
The doors are more open.
No,
I know from my time in Texas, like there were great people, great pockets of people, but it was this clique of these guys play together here, there, and everywhere. So do these guys, but those things don't necessarily mesh sometimes, or the shows don't lock in together, things like that. So here you might see a Tunes at Twilight where it's a bluegrass thing while there's a jazz show going on over here. But next thing, you might see both of those musicians down at Spectrum watching you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, it's great. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And to speak to, the musicians you got on this record, you mentioned, your friends that you've hooked up with down there, that came out of Austin with you that are musicians
Right.
on here. Let's talk about, the production of this,
yeah.
again, that piecemeal ability to write for half an hour and then have to switch channels. As a creative, that makes my head hurt having to think that way, because I'm that guy that anytime I wrote songs, man, if I got interrupted in the middle of it, who knows what happened in the next 2 hours. And I go back to work on that song, I'm in a different mindset. My kid made me angry.
Right.
The song's going to change,
But yes, and it's okay, because that's my philosophy. I heard once this Brazilian musician say it, and that got stuck to my head, and I follow that philosophy. He said, if you can't remember, it's probably not really good.
I like that.
So
it's like the opposite of the Jack Black. Always press record. Always press record.
Yes, it's the opposite, because and the way, and this is the thing, when you are on stage, it doesn't matter what you're playing. If it's country, bluegrass, classical music, jazz, you are very exposed. You're like in front of everyone. You're giving your 100%, and you're very vulnerable.
Yes.
So at that moment, the best thing that you can do is just to really perform things that you have with yourself. They're not going to be necessarily too heavy mentally to the point that you're going to be exhausted, because you need to have fun. So when you're soloing, for instance, that is just a moment of freedom that you're just expressing yourself. And when you're composing, that's the same process. So I didn't make it complicated. I started sometimes through the beats. I had an idea in my head, and then I would sing the beat, and then I would go to the trombone and try to play the melody, and then I would try to sync, and then I would use some type of app on my phone to put the beat behind. The drums is gonna be like. So I want to move that percussion that we usually have in Brazilian ensemble to the bass,
So it's more syncopated bass rhythm.
Yeah, so I was like splitting up in my head, and then if it made sense and I was repeating it, I was like, okay, so that's good. And then if the next day it was still there, and then maybe the third day I was like, okay, now I have it.
That's a keeper.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I was not forcing it to make it happen, and it came very naturally.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. When you're in the kitchen and you're coming up with a new recipe, you experiment. A little more of this, a little less of that. You come back around and go, it was too salty yesterday. Let's come back and do this, So, and that process of refinement is what gives you that end product that, A, you can be proud of, and B, that you want to perform. And you wrote songs you want to play, right? It's not just, I want people to listen to these, but man, I'm so tired of doing them.
No,
you just want to keep going.
And then the other thing, going back to your question, is that, I also gave a lot of freedom to the musicians that recorded with me. So the strategy was last summer 2023, when I recorded, we had 5 shows. So I already knew the musicians. They're all friends of mine. We had 5 shows. And then we went to studio. And everything that I recorded was beginning to the end. There was just one song that we went back for, like, intonations between me and the saxophone player.
Gotcha.
But those guys had freedom, so they already knew how to play the songs.
Yeah.
And actually I had...
You had a roadmap, and you'd performed it last. You'd rehearsed your roadmap.
Right.
But it was still fluid.
Oh, yeah, and we have video of everything. So if you go
awesome.
on my YouTube channel, my social media, Instagram, Facebook, you're going to see the actual video. The audio from that video is the same that we use for the CD, for the recording. So we were like beginning to the end. That's what it is, you know? And I think like out of the 6 tunes, I'm not joking, like 3 were just the first time that we tried. That's it. And
that
we recorded
speaks to the caliber and the relationship you've got with those musicians.
Yeah, no, they're 3 of them have Latin Grammys. The sound engineer has 3 Latin Grammys. I don't, but they do.
You don't yet.
Well,
this could be a Grammy-winning album right here.
Well, one step at a time. Well, we could, we could, but they are, they're amazing, and it's so much easier when you have that. It's just like give them freedom.
And you as this is your baby.
Yeah.
And you as the parent of this album, you feel comfortable knowing that I got the best babysitters in the world right here. Please take my baby, make it beautiful. So
that's a good way to put it, man.
That's it.
That's a good way, yeah.
You know, and I mentioned earlier that last line in there about the underrepresentation of Afro-Brazilian and Latinx musicians here in the U.S., and this being the first of its kind in the U.S. market. And having lived in Texas and seen the caliber of musicians and guys that are coming from south of the border, Central America on down, it seems like Austin was kind of a drawing point for those guys. You know, I worked with a band from Puerto Rico that were just amazing, and that's where they landed. And they go back, open for Bryan Adams in Mexico City, and then have 200 people show up for a show in Austin. So it shows that difference of when you get back home. So I think your efforts to bring that here is going to continue to grow that love, and we're going to see that love grow up here too.
And one of the goals also is to see how similar sometimes Brazilian music is to jazz. It all comes from the African diaspora, you know, so the beat is going to change a little, but when you understand, it's really fun. And you're going to hear sometimes like a funk beat in the middle of everything, but we call it something else, you know. So like a rhythm, there is a tune called Aos Amigos da Vida, which means like to the friends of my life. And the music genre is called maracatu. And the beat just goes. So that type of beat, it could be like a hip hop beat. It could be like a funk beat, you know.
Depends on where you put the one,
right?
You know, sometimes.
So like the way we listen is just a matter of perspective sometimes, you know.
And I know us as musicians, you'll hear something and your head will throw an extra beat into that and like, just spun that into, you know, like you said, a hip hop thing, you know, that kind of vibe, and you almost want to start, you know, just throwing bars on top of it because it's got such a cool, funky vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
The name of the album in English is "Don't Put Off Until Tomorrow." Now, I can't say it right. You say it right.
Oh, the way in Portuguese.
Title,
Não deixe para amanhã.
So I jack that all up.
No, but don't worry. Yeah, it was risky to put all the songs in Portuguese. That is the only one, because that's the title of the album, but there is a song named after that, but that's the only one that is in English. But I think it's cool to have the experience of explaining things. And we understand so many things in different languages. In the U.S., like, you know, English in the United States, like, we have so many other words from other countries and cultures that we are used to, you know, in food.
In American.
So I think that, like, for instance, one of the songs is called Vai, which means like go, which means like go for it, you know? So once you get it, it's fun, you know, instead of just go for it. You know, it's more fun just to say Vai. You know, it's just 3 letters. So it's kind of, or even like another song, which is a funk tune. It's called Pegada, which means Riz. But when you hear it, it's like, oh, Riz, oh, nice, okay.
So the perspective comes in.
You know, so that's the idea, but yeah.
Again, the show is Saturday, a week from tomorrow, the 24th. Tickets at bscouthall.com. I don't ever tell anybody to come with any expectations. In this case, I will tell you to come with the expectations of top caliber jazz music, and with all of the extra spice you're going to give it, man. Who do you have playing with you for this show on Saturday?
So we have our new saxophone professor, Michael Chapa. He's amazing. He's from Texas too. He was in Georgia, and he's an amazing saxophonist. I mean, this guy can play anything on the saxophone, you know, classical, contemporary, jazz. And he's a really nice dude too.
That helps.
Really young.
For a saxophone player especially.
Yeah. And then we have, you know, celebrities, I would say, Jay Contrino on drums.
Of course,
Matt Gates on guitar and Bennett Turner on bass. And I love playing with those guys because, like, at this point, they're really good friends. And it's almost like family, you know. So, like, and they all, I already said, like, you all have the Brazilian passport, you know, because the way that they're playing this music, they're enjoying, they're having fun. And we're also playing some jazzy standards as well, you know, but definitely the focus is going to be the music from the album. And then after that, you know, we have a series of jazz concerts at Skull Hall, and this is the first one of this new jazz concert series. So every month we're going to have a different musician. We have musicians coming from Memphis, St. Louis, Nashville, Chicago. So September we have Kendrick Smith, saxophone player from St. Louis. October we have this jazz French horn player from Puerto Rico. And then November, we're going to have the singer from St. Louis, Dakota. He's an amazing R&B singer.
Nice.
So every month is going to be a different guest, you know, a different artist from somewhere in this region or not, somewhere even further away. But it's a lot, you know, it's a beautiful project that we're putting in to bring jazz and this type of music to Cape Girardeau for the SEMO students and for the audience, because we had a few before and everyone enjoyed. So we're just going to continue doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. Andre Hayward back in April. I think it was March or April, when he came in. You know, that was an amazing experience. And I think you're, like you said, it's an array of musicians. Jazz French horn has got me thinking, man. I'm trying to, and Puerto Rican jazz French horn, like there's going to have to be a special drink to go along with that.
Oh yeah, and that's a fun thing. So if you go to Ska Hall those nights, you know, I don't drink, so I don't really know how it is, but we're gonna have like different names for the drinks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the thing I love about Scout Hall is it's more than just the music; it's the accompanying experience that comes with it, because it is a great room. And you know, as a trombone player and as a guy who loves jazz and loves just so much different type of music, I always get excited when something's coming to Scout Hall because it's just fresh, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And this is coming from a guy who played in cover bands for 30 years, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I love it all the way around, but this series is really exciting because, A, it's something you guys can rely on, that every month there's going to be a new jazz show coming in. It's going to be something awesome, and it's going to be in a great venue. Scout Hall affords us that intimate environment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for those of us older folks who've traveled and seen jazz shows in different venues in there, you know, we've had musicians come in there that somewhere else is $80 for you to get anywhere even close to where we're at.
That's true.
You know, and then next week and all these jazz shows coming through, you can get great tickets. You can reserve a table, hang out up front. You guys make it super accessible. You know, I'm sure you will be signing copies of this.
Oh, yeah.
You know, kissing all the babies and taking all the pictures. You know, and it'll be the same way with these other musicians. And because, you know, and I know that your approach to them is we're bringing you in to share your gifts, share your musicianship, but also to share your story and your experience with the people that are there in order to foster that love for jazz and that love for the different varieties and flavors we've got.
Yeah, and Cape is a city that is well located in the middle of those big musical towns, you know.
Right.
So at the end of the series, we're gonna have someone from Memphis. So it's just 2.5 hours, you know, away. It's not that far. And like you said, the place, the sound is great, the vibe is good, and you know, we're just excited to do this project. Yeah.
I'm excited to have you in. I'm excited that you're here today, and I appreciate you again, kind of hauling butt down the road to make it in. I know it's back to school season. Of course, being a professor here, you've got a lot of things handling it. The crack of the whip and the tryouts for jazz band and all the adventure that comes with that. So I know you're in the throes of it. But I'm sure you'll find some time in between class preparation next week to keep your chops up to par and be ready to work.
You know, every day got to practice the horn. And I'm excited that the students are back. I miss the students for sure, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Some of those guests for this Cow Hall are also playing with us in the big band.
That's awesome.
So, you know, so like, actually on the spring, I mean, I can come back here and tell more, but in April, we're going to have Michaela Postel singing with the big band and doing a show at Cow Hall.
Wow.
She's going to do all Ella Fitzgerald, Nina Simone night with the big band. Man, that's going to be fun. And she's amazing.
That's going to be great.
Yeah. So, cool. You know.
I mean, I'll say as an alumnus of the SEMO Jazz program, I'm excited for this at the student level because, I mean, and we were doing cool stuff back then when I was in school. I mean, we had Bill Waters come in, do a clinic with us. I know. I got to meet Mr. Mellow Velvet himself, you know, and his awesome hair.
I didn't. Oh, I think you told me that.
Yeah, he was the guy that didn't chastise me for using my jet tone for playing first bones. He didn't give me too much of a hard time. But, you know, it's cool to see that legacy has continued. You know, I had Barry Bernhardt back then, and Casa Boom was our chair, but they afforded those opportunities, and it was a lot harder to come to back then. You know, it was. But the Jazz Festival got started up, so it's awesome to see you continue to grow that legacy and build your own legacy within the program, and it's just exciting all over.
Yeah, it's our legacy. You know, I say
right.
Like I could not do anything without the students, without my colleagues, without you guys. It's really, that's the way I was. You know, I was raised. That's the way that I grew up in Brazil, just being very community oriented, and I love that I have a space to do that in the city, you know.
Yep.
So I'm thankful, and it's fun, man. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. You know, I'm not, you know, it's just fun. You know, it's something that you do that every time that we have, you know, people from the town and also the students interacting is beautiful, you know. So
when you can do what you love and you can spread that love and see it foster in other people, man, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we love you. We thank you for coming in.
Thank you,
Next Saturday, Scout Hall, thescouthall.com for your tickets. The album, don't put off until tomorrow what you can do today, and that includes buying tickets for the show. So we'll see you at Scout Hall next Saturday for the big show, baby. thescouthall.com for your tickets. My guest, Felipe Brito. Thank you, sir, for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's another Humans in Tune segment. We'll catch you on the next time around on 93.9 Mike FM. For Felipe, I'm Darren. We'll see you around the bend.
Thanks for catching this Humans in Tune conversation with 93.9 Mike FM. Find previous interviews on our Facebook page, or you can listen via our podcast at 93.9mikefm.com.